So if I end up cussing, it's because I'm watching the Warriors game also.
Right as we went live, Ty, so great timing. This is Bruce and Bets. My name is Steve Ricciardi. The three amigos are back. So, Ty, how we doing?
I'm doing good, man. If I'm a little bit out of it tonight, it's game 3, first game back at Golden State for the Warriors tonight. We scheduled the podcast right at that time.
And no Clay, right? Clay's out tonight?
I think so, yeah. He's not in the starting lineup. I went for a run right before, and then I was checking the news on Cejudo, so I didn't really get to see it, but he's not on the court right now.
Yeah, so we have a local Warriors fan, and then we have the bad boy himself, CG.
Right.
How you doing?
Doing good, man. Had a successful week last week, won almost 4 units, and ready to continue the streak. I'm excited about this card on Saturday.
Yeah, and just so everybody knows, we're going to go back to live shows. We were sponsored by MyBookie, and we both decided to part ways. They decided not to renew our contract. We actually had a bunch of people sign up for the show, sign up for MyBookie, but struggled to make deposit. And, it was something that I think, CG, you actually signed up too, right? And weren't able to make a deposit?
That is correct, yep.
Yeah, so, unfortunately, things fell through there. But the good thing is, Eat Clean Bro is still our sponsor. Last week, I was at Ring of Combat. They were there in full force, so we'll continue on with them. And we are looking for another gambling site as a sponsor. But I want to get right into these fights. And the first fight is Katlyn Chookagian and Joanne Calderwood. And CG, why don't I throw this one to you? Katlyn is the blonde fighter. She's a local Jersey fighter, trains out of the Frankie Edgar camp, and Joanne Calderwood. Right now, this fight is -110, -110, last I looked. What do you think, CG?
I love Calderwood in this fight. She's statistically better everywhere. She lands almost 6 strikes per minute, lands about 1.6 takedowns per 15 minutes. And Chookagian, her takedown defense is a little bit suspect at 63%. Calderwood's last 2 losses were Calvillo, which was very controversial, and the champ, Jessica Andrade. And I think Calderwood has made quite the resurgence ever since moving to Syndicate MMA in Vegas. And I've been very impressed by her. And from a DraftKings perspective, we can talk about DraftKings now, right? Now that we don't have that MyBookie deal. So Calderwood is very underrated from a DK perspective. I mean, when you look at her last 5 wins, she scored 103, 106, 140.5, 92.5, and 94.5. So I don't know where Chookagian is better. And yeah, I'm going to have a lot of exposure to Calderwood in this fight.
Yeah, and Chookagian I believe lives in Jersey City or fights out of Jersey City, New Jersey, which is very close to me. I'm in Union City, so it's no more than like 10 minutes away. But Ty, who do you like in this fight?
Yeah, so I'm kind of going back and forth on it. I think both fighters have a very similar skill set in terms of their Muay Thai striking. I'm kind of leaning towards Chookagian at this point, just because I think that Calderwood fights more in spots, whereas Chookagian can keep it going for longer. And Calderwood has looked good in her last 2 fights, but she really hasn't faced tough competition. And Chookagian's been in there with kind of the top girls in the division for the most part. So I'm thinking I'm giving a slight edge to Chookagian. I'm not confident. I don't know if I'm going to bet on this fight.
And I'll tell you what, I'll even give you a reason why not to bet on this fight. And I agree with everything you guys are saying. I think it's a tough fight to bet only because Chookagian throws a decent amount, but she doesn't hit anything. And it really, in my opinion, it really depends on how this fight is scored from a perspective of landed, absorbed, and significant strikes actually landing. Like at the end of the fight, she's probably going to throw more strikes. But she throws a jab. She actually doubles and triples up on her jab, and it doesn't hit anything. So that just concerns me because I just don't know how much damage she's going to be able to do on the feet. She throws a lot, but it's not a lot of damage. From that perspective, Calderwood, I do like her, especially if she can get a takedown. She does land 1.61 takedowns a fight. And if she can get 1 or 2 takedowns, I think that she can win rounds that way. I think this is a very risky fight to bet on from that perspective, though, because if she doesn't get it down, it could be the situation where Chookagian, it looks like she's just throwing more and then wins a striking-based decision, and not much has really gone on. In addition to that, there's 5 female fights on this card, And you're talking about Chookagian, who fought Jessica Ai last fight. Jessica Ai is now in the main event. Well, co-main event, I guess you would say. But it's a title fight, and Chookagian's open in the card. So that tells you kind of how far, she's fallen with that one loss. But I'm going to say no bet on this one. And it opened at I think it opened – let me just see this real quick. It opened with Calderwood as a pretty big favorite and got bet down. So if you think Calderwood – I mean, I don't think the odds are going to get any better than they are right now to pick up. But Calderwood was minus 175 at open. So I think people thought maybe the takedowns would be able to win her this fight.
For a good reason.
Yeah, definitely. Ty, let me throw this next fight to you. And this is Eddie Wineland and Grigorii Popov, I believe, making his UFC debut. What do you think here?
Yeah, so I was actually surprised that Popov is actually older than Wineland. It seems like Wineland's been around forever, ever since I started watching, pretty much. Wineland should have the advantage on this. Popov has faced terrible competition I think he fought in China and Russia. He's been fighting terrible competition. I'm not sold that Wineland is completely done with his career. He's fought two guys in Perez and Dodson lately that he's a lot slower than. I don't think that he's going to have that big of a speed discrepancy in this fight. I think that he's going to catch him and knock him out.
Interesting. I actually feel the same way. So CG, what do you think here?
This fight's just a fade for me. Eddie doesn't do enough. He doesn't have the volume that I like to see in fighters. He lands just over 3 strikes per minute, doesn't offer any takedown threats. I can't bet on a guy who hasn't landed more than 54 strikes in almost 7 years. And I don't like Popov either. You look at his record, he's 13-1, but 6 of those wins are by decision. I think it's going to be a really back and forth chess match, boring fight. It's a fade. Gun to my head, probably Eddie, just because he's more battle tested, but just not a fight that I'm interested in.
And CJ, I'm picking up on what you said, and I do agree with what Ty said. I think this is a great spot to bet only because we don't know about this guy Popov. If you look at the guys that he's fought up into his last 2 fights, the guys have been pretty bad. 2 fights ago, the fight that I saw, the guy was 0-1. His only fight was against Popov, and Popov wound up beating him, and he actually got taken down by the guy.
Well, let me give you a little bit of hot take right here, because Eddie Wineland right now is minus 130. I think that his only chance to win is by knockout. I think that if he doesn't catch the knockout, it's because Popov is better than we think he is. So instead of I usually don't play the props, but I'm gonna take Wineland at for like maybe a quarter unit. Not a real confident play, but I'm gonna take him at plus 425 by knockout, and just make a small play on it, because I think that if he doesn't catch the knockout early, it's because Popov is better than we thought, and he's gonna lose the fight.
I mean, Popov trains at Tiger Muay Thai, so he's getting some good striking training, but his record's just watered down.
Yeah, and I strongly believe that if Wineland doesn't catch him early, it's because Popov is better at this point in their career, and he'll win the fight. So I'm going to take Wineland for probably a quarter unit, maybe a half unit, depending on how some fantasy baseball stuff goes. And
listen, you have been killing it recently, though.
Yeah. I might start doing it for the quant edge.
Okay. Well, I'll be honest with you. I really do like Eddie Wineland here. And again, when I looked at this fight, I've kind of been off with Eddie Wineland recently. I was really surprised with what I think is a very low-level Popov. What CG said is true. I did notice that. He does train in Phuket, I believe, is where he's training.
Yep.
But with that said, I just didn't see on tape what I thought I was going to see. I was a little bit of surprised with that. And CG brings up a little DFX action. I think that in GPPs, I think that Wineland is very much at play, and he's got a great price. But we'll go from there. Let me introduce this next fight. Bevon Lewis and Darren Stewart. I was all over Bevon Lewis in his first fight against Uriah Hall, and I think rightly so. I think he really got the best of Uriah Hall, and he was on his way to winning a decision now. I'm pretty sure he won the first 2 rounds in that fight, and Uriah Hall caught him with a counter right hand as he was coming in. He's very aggressive. He's John Jones' training partner. I guess he trains at Jackson Wink. Hasn't had a ton of fights, but he's 28 years old. He's going to have a height advantage. He's going to have a reach advantage. And Darren Stewart, I think, is the kind of fighter who plays right into Bevon Lewis's hands. Other than the fact that he could catch Lewis, which is what happened against Uriah Hall, I think Bevon Lewis is the better fighter. Right now, he's minus 175. I wouldn't mind a play on him there. I'm probably going to stay away only because I'm a little concerned with the chin with Darren Stewart. But again, maybe in DFS, Bevon Lewis and as a GPP play, because I do like this fight to finish. Over 1.5 rounds is minus 155. Under 1.5 rounds is plus 125. Fight doesn't go to decision, minus 175. I think that's the safest bet. Fight doesn't go to decision. CG, what do you think here?
So Lewis has a lot of things going for him. He's 6'3", has a 5-inch reach over Stewart. Stewart is far from a world beater, but he's tough, lands almost 3 strikes per minute, almost 2 takedowns per fight. And he's been improving, and he has better cardio. Lewis gassed out and was finished in devastating fashion by Hall. People are finally figuring out, I think, that Lewis is a little bit overrated in the spot. Yesterday, he was minus 225. Today, he's minus 175. I can't bet on a guy who was dominating the first 2 rounds, gassed out, and got clipped, because Stewart could very well do the same thing that Hall did. From a DraftKings perspective, I actually like Stewart more. From a betting perspective, I'm with you, Steve. I like it to end inside the distance, because I think the way Lewis fights, he's either going to finish Stewart early or he's going to gas out and get finished himself in the later rounds. So I think that's the safest bet, is fight does not go the distance.
But if you're picking straight up, you're picking Stewart to win, you think?
I am, yeah.
Okay. All
yeah,
right.
hot take. I can't trust Lewis. I mean, yeah, he looked good, but you got to remember, Uriah Hall, he's always in his own head. He's always low volume in the first round. He can't pull the trigger. Hall did the same thing with Jotko in that fight, and then waits for his opponent to gas out and then capitalizes.
Yeah.
So I can't trust Lewis at this point, especially for that price. No way.
What do you think, Ty? Break this tie here. Who are you picking?
Yeah, so Lewis opened up at minus 155, and then his odds went up because he was getting a lot of heavy action, and it's kind of come back down to earth a little bit. I might take the wait and see approach. Right now, I see the odds at minus 175 for Lewis, and I really don't hate that. I think that Lewis is by far the better fighter. I am concerned, like you guys are, about him getting clipped and knocked out or him gassing. But, man, I think that he's pretty safe, because I think that Lewis was dominating Hall, and Stewart is a huge step down from Hall. And, I'm actually probably going to lean to take the wait and see approach, but I'm probably going to play Lewis at some point. I'm hoping to get more around the 150, 155 opening price, but if fight night comes around and he's minus 175, I'm probably going to play a smaller play on Bevon Lewis.
All right, so we're kind of all over the place here in this fight. This is a good spot to just talk about our sponsor, Eat Clean Bro. Over the last 2 weeks, we actually picked 2 winners. I forgot to name the winner last week. So Juan Fuentes won 2 weeks ago the Eat Clean Bro prize pack with a $50 gift card. And then last week was Anthony Tisano. Again, I don't have Anthony's information yet. So, Anthony, if you're listening to this, by all means, let me know. Hit us up on the Brews and Bets or on my personal at SHP Pirate 12 on Twitter, my personal Twitter name. Let us know what your address is so I can send that out to you. All right, that's the first thing. Then the second thing, we picked Michael Hacker to win the program from UFC 229, the Habib Connor program. So, Mike, I hit you up on YouTube. That was a YouTube thing. And once he sends me his information, we'll send that out. And this week, again, we'll do another Eat Clean Bro. We have 2 more prize packages. So, Ty, let me throw this next fight to you for a little introduction. This is Angela Hill and Xiaonan Yan. I think I'm saying that name right. What do you think here?
Man, I really don't know where to go with this fight, so I think both of them are really good fighters. I just don't know how much I trust Angela Hill. And I know I say that every single time that she fights. I think Yan is a prospect that could pretty much put volume on her and cause a lot of problems in for Hill. I'm not loving the price. Last I looked, it was like minus 170. It's at minus 155 right now.
Yep, that's what it is.
Man, I wish this was a little bit closer to even. I'm probably going to stay away from it just because I think that both of these fighters are going to put a high volume in, and it's going to end up on the judges' scorecard. And I think, man, I'm probably just going to stay away and enjoy the fight because it's going to be fun.
Ty, you're literally going back and forth. You're talking yourself in and out of this right now.
Yeah, I mean, if it was closer to even odds, I would probably place a bet on Yan, maybe a 1-unit bet. But man, I just don't see it right now. Both of these girls could execute their game plan and cause problems for the other.
All right, CG, what do you think? I have a pretty clear take on this, but what do you think, CG?
Yeah, so Yan's very high output, lands over 7 strikes per minute. Hill lands almost 6 strikes per minute. It's a close fight. I think Yan probably wins. I'm not going to bet it, but honestly, I love this fight from a DraftKings perspective. This is a fight that you could actually like stack and cash. Hill landed over 100 strikes in 4 of her last 5 fights. Yan landed 150 strikes in her last fight. Whew. Yeah, it's tough. Like I said, I can't bet it, but I love Hill in DraftKings because she's only 7,100. She could realistically lose the fight and still score 71 points and score you 10x value. So that's what I'm doing. I'm just going to play Hill in DraftKings.
Yeah, and CG, that's exactly what I was going to say. I think that this price is mispriced. This fight is mispriced on DraftKings. So Angela Hill as a cash punt is an outstanding play. Yeah. In terms of betting this, what I see, and Ty is right in what he's saying. If the odds get closer, I may fire in a bet on Yan. I do like Yan to win rounds 2 and 3 because I think Angela Hill gasses out a little bit. Maybe not gasses out, but she definitely slows. That striking number, CG, that you mentioned, it seems like it's a little skewed to the first round. She comes out real fast in the first round. Then her striking volume kind of decreases in rounds 2 and 3. So if Yan can keep up that striking pace, and again, as you mentioned, against Suri Kondo last time out, I wrote it down, 150 strikes. She's going to wind up winning rounds 2 and 3 just with sheer volume. So if Yan wins round 1, it's a great opportunity to live bet her because I think she wins rounds 2 and 3 just with her volume. And even if Hill wins round 1 and you bet before the fight, I think you're in a great position because I think Yan's going to win rounds 2 and 3. But in terms of volume, I think that there's going to be a lot of volume here, and I agree. Angela Hill can easily score, 50, 60 points. I mean, I think you just said 70.
That's pushing it. Realistically, 55, 65 points, somewhere in that range, but still good for cash at $7,100, right?
100%. And really with some of the high-priced fighters on this card on DraftKings, you're really going to want to get those low-volume or low-price fighters in, and I think that she's in a great spot. Ty, let me throw this next one to you. Calvin Kattar and Ricardo Lamas. I think you're a pretty big fan of Calvin Kattar, if I remember correctly. What do you think about this one?
Yeah, Kattar is a great technical boxer. I've been nothing but impressed with him since he came into the UFC. I honestly think this is his fight to lose. All he really has to do is pretty much fight off the takedowns. I think Lamas could come in wrestling heavy and cause a problem for Kattar. As long as that doesn't happen and it stays on the feet, I think Kattar's going to pick him apart. And I love the price right now at minus 145. I'm going to probably place a few units on Kattar.
CG, what do you think?
I'm in agreement. Kattar's boxing fundamentals are just outstanding. The way he knocked out Burgos, that was very, very impressive. And we all know that Burgos has very technical boxing as well. I was a little bit concerned about Kattar's fight against Moicano. Kattar only landed 41 strikes compared to Moicano's 116. But then again, Lamas isn't going to do that. Lamas doesn't even land 3 strikes per minute. So the only path to victory that Lamas has is takedowns. But Kattar's takedown defense is 75%, and Kattar, from what I hear, also has a wrestling background. I think he wrestled in high school. So he knows what he's doing. He's not as accomplished as Lamas in that regard, but still, I just think that if it's a stand-up fight, Kattar's going to pick him apart and might even score a knockout on Lamas. So I love Calvin Kattar in the spot.
Yeah, and I would agree. All three of us are going to be on Kattar, and I think this is a great spot to bet at minus 145. I was actually surprised at the line. Maybe we think too highly of Kattar. I don't know. I was actually ringside for the Moicano fight that you just mentioned. It was over in Brooklyn. And again, that fight went to decision, and Moicano kind of jabbed his face off in that fight. The first round was pretty close, pretty tight. And once he started connecting with jabs, I mean, he ate Kattar up pretty good. But Kattar's an outstanding boxer. What he did against Shane Burgos was very, very impressive, and he got that late knockout. I think Lamas is stylistically, if he doesn't win round one, he's going to be forced to kind of come after him. I can just see this fight going into round three, very similar to how the Burgos fight went. If Lamas is down a round, or two, I should say, going into round three, I think he's going to be, forcing it a little bit. And Kattar is very patient. He's able to counterpunch, and I think that we could see a late finish. I'm going to call a decision here. I'm going to call Kattar by decision, but I could very well see a Kattar third round finish, only because I think Lamas is going to get desperate down 2 rounds at that point. So that's where I'm going with that one. Let's throw the next one back to Ty, because I know Alexa Grasso, he's a big fan of her. Ty, she may even be a big fan of yours. Karolina Kowalkiewicz and Alexa Grasso. What do you think here?
Man, I don't know. Initially when I was talking about this fight, or when I was thinking about this fight, I thought that Kowalkiewicz had the advantage. Looking into it more, she hasn't really looked good in her last few fights, and I think that Grasso could cause a problem for her. At least that's what I'm hoping happens. I'm probably not going to bet on it just because I know that I have a bias in this fight. When I have a bias, I just don't play. I'm going to be rooting for Grasso. I think that she does have a chance in this fight. Yeah, that's pretty much where my take is.
All right, I got a little narrative here, but CG, what do you think here?
I'm taking a very definitive stance in this fight. I think Karolina should outpoint Grasso. The stats really speak to how I see this fight going. Grasso's has decent striking volume at 4.5 strikes per minute, but Karolina's just better at 5.5 strikes per minute. And when you really look at Karolina's record, I mean, she only loses to the cream of the crop, right? I mean, Joanne, Gadelia, Andrade, and Waterson has to be in the top 5 right now. Grasso's not an elite fighter. So I think Karolina picks her apart. And even from a DraftKings perspective, she's $8,400. In her last 2 wins, she scored striking-based decisions and put up 101 points in both fights. I don't know where Grasso's better. I don't know how she wins this fight. I love Kowalkiewicz in this fight. I really do.
Grasso's probably better in the clinch, and she's probably equal to her boxing.
I think it's going to come down to volume, and Karolina has it.
No doubt, and that's why I'm hesitant, and because I know I have a bias with Grasso, and that I'm a little bit scared for this fight, to be honest, and so that's why I'm just staying away from it.
Let me add my narrative here, because this is kind of how I feel about this fight, and I feel coming off of last week where we saw 3 fighters retire, I feel like Karolina's this is her first gatekeeper fight, and I feel like she's at a crossroads right now where if she would have beaten Waterson in that last fight, and that was at UFC Philly, right? I was cage side for that. Very good fight, close back and forth. Waterson was able to get top control. I think she won 2 rounds. I think it was a split decision. I don't remember off the top of my head.
It was unanimous.
Was it unanimous? Okay. Yeah. So she was on her way to earning that rematch with Rose before the Andrade fight, right?
Right.
And Andrade just ran through her, right? Knocked her out, vicious. Then she comes up against Waterson, and she still has a shot, right, to redeem herself, especially with what Andrade did. Then you're like, all right, maybe if Karolina can string together 2 or 3 wins, she'll get a shot at the title, get a shot at Andrade some point down the line. Well, she winds up losing to Waterson. So now where are we at? We're on a card where there's a bunch of fights in the weight class. You have, Tatiana Suarez coming up on this card also, who with the win is probably getting the next the next title shot. So Karolina's a gatekeeper. This is her gatekeeper fight. Alexa Grasso's 25 years old. She's fought once in the last 2 years, and it was a complete beating, mauling to Tatiana Suarez. So again, you're talking about a girl who was totally, taken out of her element. I think, CG, the numbers that you mentioned, obviously those are the numbers. But if you're talking about Alexa Grasso being her last fight was against Tatiana Suarez, I think those numbers are skewed. I think that we could see the best Alexa Grasso in this fight. And we're in a position where if Karolina's head isn't right after getting knocked out and losing to Waterson, I mean, where does she go from here? She just basically fights out her contract. If she wins, she can be the gatekeeper for another 2 or 3 fights. If not, where she has no future in the UFC in this weight class. That's
So
she
just fought back in March against Waterson, and I like the quick turnaround. I really do. So I'm pretty sure Kowalkiewicz won the first round, then Waterson won 2 and 3. And I like the fact that she's getting back on the horse right away, fighting 2 months later. I mean, if she was contemplating retirement or giving up, I don't think she would rush back and fight again. I don't know. I think Karolina's better everywhere. I don't feel like she would lose a fight like this against Grasso. Like I said, Karolina only loses to top-notch fighters.
All right. Again, everyone's kind of got their own take, and Ty's trying to, I guess, play it keen a little bit because I know you're a Grasso fan, but are you a little concerned about the fight?
Well, I think Karolina's a good fighter, and it's not a step up for Grasso, but because I think that Suarez is the best fighter in the division, but it's kind of not too far of a step down, and it's more of a proving fight than anything, and it's going to tell a lot where she's at in her career. And I know, like, I may or may not have a crush or something, so I follow her training, and she's been training great, and I think that she's doing all the right things to win this fight. I just want to see it versus Karolina. I don't like putting money on my teams in sports. I don't like putting money on my favorite fighters. I'm already going to have a rooting interest, so I don't want bias to affect my money.
So Ty, really, I thought I was throwing it to you first. You were going to say
Grasso was going to smash her.
I just kind of felt like you were going to say Grasso. CG was going to go Karolina, and then I was going to come in with my narrative, and I would have cleaned it up. And I just feel like you let me down.
I think Grasso is going to win. I think that she has the tools to win the fight. But it's one that's going to be more telling to where she's at in her career rather than a confidence factor. So I'm not recommending to bet on Grasso. I'm personally not going to bet on her, but I think that she is going to win. I think she's going to outbox her.
A true gatekeeper fight, then.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I got to show you guys this because this is my notes for this next fight, and I absolutely love this next fight. Pedro Munoz and Aljamain Sterling. I just felt like it was the toughest fight for me to decide, and I just watched like as many fights as I could. I probably spent a good hour and a half. Ty a couple weeks ago told me you got to make your decision in like 5-10 minutes, right, Ty?
Faster than that. Just make it in 2.
I think I spent about an hour and a half watching tape on this fight.
I don't like Aljamain Sterling, so I don't like his fighting style. So I don't. Yeah, I don't like watching his fights.
Well, listen, I'll introduce this fight and then I'll throw it to you guys. I'm picking Aljamain Sterling to win this fight, and I'll tell you why. First of all, he's got a big reach advantage. It's going to be about what is this? About 6.5, 7
inches, yeah.
And they're really the same size. They're both 5'7" or listed at 5'7" from what I see. And again, if you look at Aljamain Sterling in his losses, I'm kind of throwing out the Caraway loss. So let's just talk about the Marlon Moraes loss, who he couldn't get anything really off against Marlon Moraes, but Moraes is the one who's in the title fight right now. So if Sterling wins that fight, he could be a fight away from the title fight if he would have won that fight. I sat cage side for the Brett Johns fight, and I was actually on Brett Johns in that fight. That was at UFC Atlantic City, and I thought that Aljamain Sterling. I rewatched the fight yesterday. I thought that Aljamain Sterling looked great in that fight from a volume perspective, attacking. The one concern I have is when he comes in to strike, he turns his back to his opponent. Now, I don't know what Munoz is going to do to try to hurt him in that situation, But whenever Aljamain Sterling gets real close to try to get away, and he did the same thing against Jimmie Rivera a few times and against Marlon Moraes, he'll turn his back to his opponent. But again, you can't punch the back of somebody's head. So it just seems like the guys let him get away and let him get off and create that distance again. From distance, he's going to throw a lot of straight kicks. There's a lot of kicks, left kicks, right kicks, going to all different angles, all different body parts. Munoz was very, very good against Brett Johns. His low kicks against Brett Johns were outstanding. I mean, Johns couldn't even walk after a while. Against Cody Garbrandt, again, I watched that fight, watched it back. I really thought that Garbrandt fell on his sword a little bit too early in that fight, but Garbrandt thought he hurt Munoz, and I think he did a little bit. And when that flurry started, he was hurting Munoz. Munoz just happened to land that knockout punch first. I don't think Aljamain Sterling's going to give him the chance to land that knockout punch. I think he's going to keep that distance, which is what he did against Jimmie Rivera. And the striking numbers against Jimmie Rivera were pretty, staggering to me. It was like 70-25 in terms of significant strikes. So I think Aljamain Sterling by 3-round decision is the way that I'm going in this fight, and I'm pretty confident in it. So Ty, what do you think here?
Yeah, so a minute ago I said that I'm not a fan of Sterling, watching his fights, him as a fighter in general. But I agree with you. I think he's going to win this fight. I really like Munoz. I like him as a fighter. I met him after the Cody fight. Great guy. I just don't know how he's going to win this fight. Sterling just doesn't get hit. The only advantage that I see that Munoz has is if this fight goes to the ground. But that being said, Munoz doesn't have good takedowns. Sterling's probably not going to get it to the ground. And so I see Sterling just picking him apart and staying out of the danger. And so I'm in agreement with the 3-round decision for Sterling.
All right, CG, what do you think here?
It's a close fight. Munoz won 7 of his last 8 fights. He lands more strikes per minute than Aljo, with lands over 5 strikes per minute. Aljo lands more takedowns per fight, but attempting to take down Pedro is risky business. Of Pedro's 18 wins, a third of them came by guillotine choke. And I know everyone's saying that Aljo's going to keep the distance. Munoz runs in there like a bull. He just has that knack for getting his opponents to engage in a firefight. And if he does that, if he clips Aljo, I think Aljo's naturally going to go for a takedown to evade danger. And if Pedro wraps up that neck, it's all over. I mean, I'm sure that, Matt Serra has been prepping Sterling for this. He's getting the best jiu-jitsu training out there pretty much. But I always go back to the fight with Pedro Munoz and Rob Font. I mean, Rob Font, predominantly a striker. Pedro clipped him a couple times, and then Rob Font went to take Pedro down and locked up the neck. So I just think that, like I said, Munoz just has that ability to get fighters to engage in a firefight. And if he can do that, he wins the fight. I like Munoz. I like him as a dog, and I like him in DraftKings too. So going back to Munoz's last 4 wins in DraftKings, he's been averaging 118 points.
And again, I think it's a good breakdown. Sterling by decision is plus 150. I kind of like that as a bet. I don't see Sterling, knocking him out or submitting him because, as you just said, he doesn't want to go to the ground with him. Sterling has a D3. I believe he fought D3 wrestling. He was a wrestler up in like Albany or something like that.
Yeah, I see the only way this fight goes to the mat, though, is if Munoz catches Sterling and knocks him down. Munoz isn't going to be able to take him down. His wrestling's not good. Aljo has good takedown defense.
Yeah, and I actually saw Matt Serra last week at Ring of Combat. Him and Matt Serra and Ray Longo walking through the Tropicana. They had a bunch of fighters at the Ring of Combat last week, so it was real cool to see those guys. I said hello to them. I'm a big fan of Matt Serra, and I think that what Ty said is right. I think they're going to keep Sterling on the feet, and I think he's going to be able to outstrike him. And again, he doesn't always use his jab, but I think that he can use his jab here. But all right, head-to-head with CG. CG, why don't I throw this next fight to you? Tatiana Suarez and Nina Ansaroff. Suarez, let's see. I think the line increased a little bit more here. What do we have? Suarez is minus 850, and Ansaroff is plus 575. What do you think here?
Suarez, Ty mentioned it earlier. She is the best fighter at 115 in the strawweight division. Lands over 7.5 takedowns per minute, almost 5 strikes per minute. Just a volume machine. She's the best in the world. Ansarov has solid takedown defense at 80%, but Suarez is a different type of animal. And plus, if Gadelha can take Ansarov down twice, then Suarez is just about to dry hump the crap out of her. Suarez is already in the DraftKings Hall of Fame after 4 fights. When you look at her fight log, 113, 124.5, 113, and she scored 173 against Esparza with 9 takedowns and 14 advances. Suarez all day. Yeah, she's my favorite DraftKings play for sure.
And you think this goes to decision? We'll get all those points in those 3 rounds?
I think Ansarov is very tough. I think she's going to be very difficult to put away, but it's also one of those fights. I mean, sometimes from a DraftKings perspective, it's advantageous for a fight to go the distance because it's going to be more takedowns, more advances. So either way, it doesn't really bother me. I'm not going to bet a lot of these Suarez lines. I do have her in a couple parlays, but I think Ansarov will be very difficult to put away, but Ansarov's not going to win either. So, I mean, I don't really care how Suarez does it. I think she's just going to have her way with Ansarov. She'll do whatever she wants to her.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think the only way to play this is one of the props. You can't play Suarez at -850, but Suarez wins by decision at +208. I mean, that's enticing to me. Ty, what do you think?
I actually think that she has a good chance to finish the fight. Inside the distance at -151, I might make a small play on that. Maybe a 1-unit play. I really think that she's going to submit her. To be honest, she's going to pretty much maul her from beginning to end, and I just think that Ansarov is going to quit in the middle rounds.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I think it's going to go to decision. I'm going to stick with it. I may actually bet it. I haven't bet anything yet. I'm thinking about it, but
yeah, it definitely could. I just think that this is going to be such a one-sided fight that I could see Ansarov just wanting a way out of the fight.
All right.
Ansarov started her career 1-3. Did you guys see that?
I did. Yeah, I have seen that. I know Ty tells me not to listen to the interviews, but this is a long interview ago, a few months ago. But Ansarov was at the point where, if she lost a fight, she was thinking about hanging it up. And then she put together a nice little streak here. So, again, if she gets mauled here, I wouldn't be surprised if she may just hang around. She's the kind of person that may just hang around just because Amanda Nunes is going to keep fighting, so they might as well just do it together.
You know what the sad part is? 1-3, all 4 fights were in North Dakota. Was she fighting at a dive bar?
Or bare knuckle boxing.
Right.
One or the other. All right, let's go. This next fight is Tai Tuivasa and Grigorii Ivanov. I'll start this one. Obviously, this is going to play out on the feet. If either one of these guys connects, it's going to end quickly. I don't think this goes to the ground other than someone gets knocked down and then the other guy kind of jumps on top of him. But I'm not a fan of Ivanov. When he came in, I thought that maybe he had a shot to do some things, but I think he's going to be the smaller guy, and I think he struggles to really get in and land anything. And if he lands that big left hand, he can knock out anybody, especially Tuivasa, but he's struggled to land anything. So I think I think this is a great bounce back spot for Tuivasa. I think he was having his way last time and got caught. And I think he's the guy, the fun-loving guy that the UFC is putting in a position to really, really win this fight. So I think Tai Tuivasa right now is -135, I believe. I think that's a great price for him, and I'm probably going to wind up playing that. And if I'm going to play it, you could play it by inside the distance by knockout. I don't know. Ivanov has gone to decision, so maybe just play Tai straight up. What do you think, Ty?
Yeah, so I'm going to start off by saying that I think Tuivasa is going to win, but I have a little bit of inside information here onto Ivanov's training. So one of my friends in Vegas, he's a photographer, and he actually shot a photo shoot at Red Rock Canyon for the Bulgarian magazine for the upcoming Tuivasa fight. and he spent the whole day watching Ivanov train, and he said what he noticed in his training is that he's very lazy. He doesn't like to do anything in training, but when he's in there sparring, if the other guy comes out aggressive, he pretty much just bulldozes the guy. It's probably because he doesn't like doing a lot of work and doing the stuff that's going to get him tired. So the way that he handles versus aggression is he pretty much just rushes him and takes advantage. So my concern with that is Tuivasa is a very aggressive fighter, and that kind of led to his downfall in the JDS fight. So while I think Tuivasa is going to win, it's kind of hard for me to ignore the fact that Tuivasa is so aggressive. Ivanov reacts well to aggression. It's kind of leaning towards me staying away from this fight, whereas I thought Tuivasa initially.
I mean, Ty, it is Fat Boy season, though, right?
I mean, yeah.
CG, what do you think here, man?
I think Ivanov is the most boring fighter in the heavyweight division. I mean, you will never see me bet on anybody who lands just north of 3 strikes per minute with 0 grappling upside. But I will say, Ivanov is probably the more technical striker in this fight, but I still have to favor Tuivasa strictly due to his volume. Lands 4.4 strikes per minute, and he has the better inside the distance line. I believe it's plus 170. However, I'm looking at his record right now, Ivanov, that is, and in 20 professional MMA fights, he has never been knocked out. So that's a testament to his chin. He went 5 rounds with JDS. So I like Tuivasa. I think he'll win. I honestly didn't even think Ivanov won his fight against Ben Rothwell. I thought I thought Rothwell landed the cleaner strikes and he was pushing the action. Ivanov was evading him the entire fight. So I think Tuivasa is going to win the fight. Typically it doesn't look good when you have one fighter backing up the entire time. So I definitely like Tuivasa, but from a DraftKings perspective, I don't know if he's going to score highly just because, Ivanov is one of those fighters that just kind of, he's like Nakamura. He just stagnates production for him and his opponent. So, but I definitely like Tuivasa to win, and I like his line.
Yeah, and Tuivasa by decision is plus 350. I just saw that now. I was struggling to say that he would win inside the distance because, again, I haven't seen Ivanov really give his opponent an opportunity to throw a lot of volume.
Right.
So, yeah, I wouldn't mind Tuivasa by decision in that fight.
That's a good line.
Yeah, that's a real good line. Ty, what do you think here? Petr Yan and Jimmie Rivera. I know you're not a fan of Jimmie Rivera, so I'll throw this one to you.
Yeah.
Minus 335.
So I'm going to have Yan in all my parlays. I think that he has a pretty clear advantage on the feet. Rivera doesn't really go for many takedowns. He's not going to get it on Yan. And so in a standing fight, Yan has he should be able to pick him apart. I don't know if he's going to knock him out, but I think this is going to be a real telling fight for where Yan's at in his career, and I think that he's going to move into the upper division of the weight class with this.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is, personally, I think it's pretty obvious. And I'm a Jimmie Rivera guy. He is a Jersey guy, but yeah, Petr Yan is he's pretty impressive. CG, what do you think?
I agree. It's taken me a while to jump on the Petr Yan bandwagon, but I'm finally there. The guy's a killer, just a complete savage. Lands 6.5 strikes per minute, lands almost 2 takedowns per fight. I'm always looking to bet on fighters that are high volume, utilize forward pressure, and have a never-ending gas tank, and Petr Yan meets all of that criteria. And in his 22 wins, Jimmie Rivera only has 6 finishes, so I don't even think Rivera has a puncher's chance. I think Yan takes it easily, and just like Ty, I have Yan in almost all my parlays. I just think it's an easy path to victory. I don't think Rivera's going to have anything for him, and I think Yan honestly could be champ at 135 within the next year.
Yeah, and I agree with what you just said there. I think Rivera doesn't even have a puncher's chance. He's not a knockout guy.
No.
So that's the only thing that I would really be concerned with. That's why I think it's so safe to play on Yan. So yeah, I guess we both really do agree with Ty.
Well, and I'm with CG on the fact that I took a while to come around on Yan also. I kind of doubted him the first couple fights. Not the first couple fights, but probably like the second. after his debut. I thought he was going to win the debut, but I didn't think he was as good as he was. And I just, I'm pretty much in agreement.
I'm in agreement because Su's son took him the distance, right? Jan was a huge favorite in that fight, and that guy that trains with the Korean Zombie, pushed him for 15 minutes. I mean, Jan won pretty easily, but still the fact that, it took him, 15 minutes to beat a jobber by decision. I mean, that wasn't a good look, but then his last 2 fights just looked like an absolute savage.
And that was in Russia, right? I think the guy Jan had a little bit of size on him, if I remember that right.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Wasn't that guy Jan, wasn't he dropping down? Didn't he have a little bit of size on him that he was able to take some of the early shots? That was the fight in Russia?
I think that was in Moscow. I think it was.
I'm pretty sure, if I remember, I was at a wedding that weekend. That was like last September. I'm pretty sure that's how that
yeah, because that was the Hunt versus Olenek card, so that was in Moscow.
Yeah, okay. CJ, let me throw this one right back to you. I think I have a pretty decent take on it, and I have a feeling I know what Ty's going to say. Tony Ferguson and Donald Cerrone. Ferguson is minus 145, and Cerrone is plus 125. Does Cerrone keep his momentum going here? What do you think, CG?
I'm honestly not sure that I've ever been so freaking excited for a fight. This is going to be absolute bananas. I keep on going back and forth, but my pick is Tony Ferguson. Cowboy Cerrone's recent run has been something to behold, something special, but there's a reason Ferguson hasn't lost a fight in 7 years. I believe he won 11 in a row. He can knock you out. He can submit you. He has the best Darce choke in the game. I will say Ferguson's striking defense concerns me. He was rocked pretty good by Venata and Pettis, and then he does those rolls, to evade his opponent and to get his bearings back. But one thing about Ferguson, you never see the guy quit. You never see him look for a way out. We've seen Cerrone quit on multiple occasions and look for a way out. And that's ultimately what it comes down to for me. They both have great skill sets, versatile, but Ferguson's ability to overcome adversity is the best I've ever seen. And another thing about Cerrone is how do you mitigate his striking attack? Forward pressure, make Cerrone fight off his back foot like RDA has done on numerous occasions. I think they fought twice. In the Cerrone-Iaquinta fight, Iaquinta gave Cerrone way too much room, way too much space. And, he landed that front kick on him. Somebody like Tony Ferguson, he will never give his opponent that much space to work. Ferguson versus Pettis, he was stalking Pettis the entire time, nonstop action, leaving you no room to breathe. I like Tony Ferguson to win. I like him to win inside the distance.
Go ahead, Ty. What do you think here?
Yeah, I want Cerrone to win, but I don't think it's going to happen. Cerrone really struggles versus pressure, and Ferguson is an in-your-face type fighter. I think that if Ferguson comes out early and gets in his face and pressures him, I wouldn't be surprised if he stops Cerrone in the first round. I hope that doesn't happen, but Cerrone is pretty much one of the slower starters in the sport of guys that have been around for a while. So I don't like this matchup. I don't like Ferguson, but I think Ferguson has the advantage here.
Ty, what do you make? And I feel like we've had this conversation, so I want to get your updated take on this. What do you think about Tony Ferguson's mental health right now?
Yeah, I'm not sure. The stuff that he went through is pretty crazy. I don't know, to be honest. I mean, what's to say? Like the stuff that happened was literally crazy. I personally don't think that he should be in the fight until he's cleared mentally. But I mean, they made the fight. He seems like he's doing all right. We'll see. I think he has some kind of CTE or something wrong with him personally.
Yeah, I kind of do too, and that's why I'm going with Cerrone. My only concern with Donald Cerrone in this fight is he just biting off way too much, more than he can chew in these last two events, right? He fought Alex Hernandez, I believe that was in January, and then he just came off like a month, 6 weeks ago, 7 weeks ago. He fought Al Iaquinta. I I just think that, these weight cuts back to 155 for Cerrone, there may be too many of them in a row. That was my only concern here. If it weren't for that, I really do like Cerrone to win this fight. I understand what you're saying with the pressure, but I do like that.
I think that Cerrone's taking care of himself better than he did early in his career, so I think the weight cut's a little bit easier for him.
Yeah, and I think that's also, being that this is a 3-round fight, I know there's going to be pressure, but I think that in 3 rounds he's going to be able to pace himself a little bit better, and he knows he can't give away round 1. And again, Ferguson, how has Ferguson won a bunch of his last fights? Like even against Kevin Lee. Kevin Lee had got the better of him on the feet early in that fight. He was able to get the triangle. I believe that was in round 3, the triangle choke. It was either in round 2 or 3. And then if you look at Ferguson's last fight, I mean, yeah, he pressured Anthony Pettis, but Pettis caught him. And I think that Donald Cerrone can catch him too.
Well, and I'm not too worried about if this fight goes to the ground. I think that Cerrone can hold his own. And I know that might not be a popular take, but I don't think that Ferguson's that much better than him, if at all, on the ground.
No, let's be honest, though. This is the typical Donald Cerrone narrative, right? He goes on this impressive win streak. He's on the cusp of a title shot, and then he loses, right? How many times have we seen this? I think it happens again. Another astounding stat of Tony Ferguson. He landed 114 strikes against Anthony Pettis in 2 rounds.
See, the one thing that gives me hope is the Venata fight, though. I think that that Cerrone could come out and damage him a little bit, and he could kind of pick apart his spots. Ferguson showed a lot of weaknesses in his stand-up in that fight.
Yeah, his striking defense is a concern, and Cerrone's kicks are lightning fast.
Yeah, and so I'm personally hoping Cerrone wins the fight. I think that Ferguson's going to win.
And again, that Ferguson fight against Anthony Pettis broke his hand in that fight. He knocked Ferguson down. I believe at the end of round 1, he broke his hand. They stopped it after 2 rounds, but that fight, his hand was broken in round 2. And again, Ferguson was coming after him because he had to. Lucky for him, too, Pettis had a broken hand. So with all that being said, I'm on Cerrone. I know you guys both kind of went Ferguson's way, but I'm on Cerrone in this fight. This next fight, I'll take this next one, and then I guess, Ty, I'll throw it back to you for the main event. Valentina, I just don't think there's any way that Valentina loses this fight. She's minus 1,300. Jessica Ai is plus 850. Jessica Ai was lucky to get past Katlyn Chookagian. I think that was a split decision. I'm pretty sure it was a split decision. I just don't see it. Valentina is going to be better everywhere. It's not the kind of thing that you really want to put a bet on. Although right now, is it worth? Again, I'm in Jersey, so in Jersey we can bet inside the distance props. So if you get Valentina inside the distance, that's minus 102. That's something that you may want to parlay. Minus 1,300, I don't think you can parlay, but Valentina minus 102 in a 5-round fight to finish inside the distance, I think is something, just with the sheer volume, she may be able to finish this fight. So that's what I'm looking at here. CG, what do you think?
Shevchenko was better everywhere. I mean, obviously you can't bet that minus 1,300 line, but I like that line that you said, inside the distance, minus 102. Jessica Ai is very, very tough, though. She is, but I think this could very well be death by accumulation.
Yeah.
So that's a line that I'm interested in for sure.
All right. Todd, what do you think here? Anything?
Yeah, so, I mean, Shevchenko should win pretty easily. Ai's tough, but I think that it's going to lead to her downfall. I think this is going to be kind of like a situation with Max Holloway and Brian Ortega. She's going to be tough enough to last, but to last later on in the fight, but she's going to take a lot of damage.
Yeah, and I think if you're going to bet that, you might as well just go under 4.5 rounds as plus 105.
Yeah, I'm probably just staying away from it. I figure I know what's going to happen, but I'm not going to put a timeline on it, just because I is so tough and she could last till longer, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's a decision, because both fighters could be passive at times. And so I don't know if Shevchenko goes all out for the finish, knowing that Ai is so tough.
Sure.
I'm just going to sit this one out.
All right, so Ty, let me throw it back to you for the main event. I'll go last here. So Ty, you got Henry Cejudo at plus 115, Marlon Moraes at minus 135. Before we got on the air, you said earlier in the day you heard a little bit something about Cejudo's knee. You had a little narrative to that, and then who do you like here?
Yeah, so I was going out for a run in this beautiful 100-degree weather out here, and about 2 miles in, I got a message on my phone. One of our followers sent me a message on Twitter saying that Cejudo got injured. So I kind of looked into it. Initial reports were that he tore his knee. Cejudo came out and said that he just bumped it and let out a scream. So I kind of want to see how he's walking at the weigh-ins. It's kind of going to be pretty telling to how bad he's actually hurt, especially given it's going to be 2 days after the injury. So if he bumped it, he probably will be walking fine. If he tore something or has any structural damage, he's going to be walking with a limp. If he shows any sign of an injury at all, you have to go all in on Moraes. I hate to say it. I'm hoping Cejudo wins and becomes the two-weight champ. But if he's hurt by any means, Moraes is fast enough that he's going to capitalize on everything. That being said, if everything was okay, I think that Cejudo has a pretty good path to victory with his takedowns. Right now, it's just a lot of uncertainty because I don't know how much that's going to affect him. So I'm personally going to hold off until after the weigh-ins.
All right. CG, what do you think here?
Ty's narrative concerns me a little bit. Obviously, need some more information before I make any more bets. But my write-up before I heard this was that Cejudo is statistically better everywhere. Lands slightly more strikes per minute. Obviously, he lands more takedowns per fight. Moraes has 60% takedown defense, and he's going against the most accomplished wrestler in the UFC. Another thing about Cejudo, his striking is very underrated. He's got great hand speed, excellent punching power. His knockout against Wilson Hayes was very impressive. And I keep on hearing people say that Cejudo's power doesn't translate to 135, but didn't he just obliterate the former champ in the first round? So I just think that, Cejudo is, you can make the argument that he's almost better everywhere. I mean, Moraes has those kicks that are fantastic, but I mean, Moraes needs to realize that every time he throws a kick, he's susceptible to the takedown.
I thought that Cejudo looked better at 135 than he's ever looked at 125.
I agree. So I like Cejudo to win the fight.
Cejudo also looks like a superhero right now. Did you see some of the pictures of him flexing and stuff?
Yeah. How bad are his interviews, though?
Yeah, I mean, but he doesn't.
Makes me want to cringe.
He's always been terrible at interviews.
Holy smokes.
He's called himself corny in some of his interviews. He comes across corny. That's his stick. I get it, but this is a great spot for him. And this is a guy who rises to the occasion. He rose to the occasion to win that Olympic gold. I feel like I'm doing my Henry Cejudo right now. But he rose to the occasion to win that Olympic gold medal, right? He rose to the occasion to beat DJ. He rose to the occasion again to beat TJ. Again, I find it tough to think that he's going to rise to the occasion at 135 to beat Marlon Moraes. If that fight against TJ is at 135, I think it's a different outcome. I get that feeling in the back of my head, like Moraes, when he trains in Jersey with Frankie Edgar and that whole camp, and if you look at him, he looks every bit as big, if not bigger, than Frankie Edgar. So how much weight is he cutting? I find it tough to think that Moraes isn't going to step in the cage maybe 5 to 10 pounds heavier than Cejudo. That's just my take on it, just from the looks of things. So, and I think Marlon Moraes too. He came into the UFC. He was the World Series of Fighting champion, I believe, at that point when he came in. Lost that first fight to Sun Sao. The volume wasn't there, but after that, I mean, the last fight against the Sun Sao his volume was unbelievable. And again, the leg kicks, the guys he's knocked out, the guys he's beat. Jimmie Rivera. I know we're not huge fans of Jimmie Rivera here, but I mean, how long did that fight last? 20 seconds in a fight that was basically a pick'em. I really do like Marlon Moraes here. Cejudo. I mean, if you like Cejudo, obviously play him, and I'm kind of talking my way in and out of both of these guys in this fight. This is another fight that I love. The Ferguson Cerrone fight is outstanding. This fight to me is equally outstanding, and I'm really looking forward to the Munoz Sterling fight. Those are the three fights that I really like in this card. but I think Cejudo and Moraes is a high level fight. Guys, anything else to add here? And again, I got no plays in this main event, but I'll be playing both in DraftKings.
Do you think Cejudo's the only Olympic gold medalist to never get laid?
I mean, not by a Bella twin. I'll put it that far. I don't know.
No, my hot take is I really like Calderwood in this spot. Like I said, statistically better everywhere, the better grappler. I love her line. I love JoJo. I'm a believer in this resurgence.
And with that being said, Shiji, you're getting all the odds value on Calderwood. She opened up at -170 and is -110 right now. So,
yeah.
If you don't believe it's line to pick them, but you don't believe it's a pick them, that's a great play. Ty, any last things? You got prize picks coming out?
Yeah, I'm gonna submit the projections tonight. But yeah, this card I don't see me playing a lot in terms of betting. Maybe just a couple units here and there. But I'm not gonna go crazy on the betting. But I'm really excited for this card. This is a great card.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this card. I'm covering the Triple G fight Saturday night, so I'll be over at Madison Square Garden at the Triple G fight. So last time when I was at the Bronze Bomber fight, I'm on my phone the whole time at that fight, watching the undercard fights.
Well, the Triple G fight's only going 3 or 4 rounds, so you'll be out of there in time.
You think so? Well, yeah, I'm gonna be there for a while, but with that being said, I'm gonna have to get the live feed for the pay-per-view part on Periscope or something.
If it's any consolation, Triple G's trying to set up a fight, the third fight with Canelo. He's not going to throw it like Joshua did.
That's the narrative. Ty's been saying that all week, CG. What do you think about that fight last week?
I don't know. I mean, it looked a little suspect to me, but I mean, Ruiz, I mean, he was throwing bombs, but yeah, I mean, I just thought Joshua was a lot better than that. Yeah. And plus, I mean, I don't know why he would throw it though. I mean, they're trying to set up Wilder and Joshua, right?
Let me just tell you, because Anthony Joshua has been ducking Wilder for about 3 or 4 years now. That's true. Eddie Hearn is shady. And so he threw this fight. Now they have the first ever Mexican heavyweight. They sign the rematch the next day. They're both going to get paid. He doesn't have to fight Wilder. And then they're going to set up a third fight afterwards.
Okay, that's narrative right there. For someone who doesn't believe in narrative, that's narrative.
No, it's not. It's not narrative. It's boxing. Boxing's scandalous. It's shady.
You know what, Ty? And I didn't say this to you. And again, I think my cousin was going back and forth with you also with this.
Yeah.
The only reason why I don't believe that is because why would Joshua take his first loss in the United States to Andy Ruiz on short notice, right? Like
because he knows he's going to knock him out next time. And then they're gonna both knock each other out one time. They're gonna set up a third fight. Trilogies make money, and then he doesn't have to fight Wilder and get hurt.
Well, at least for another 3 or 4 years, then.
He's never gonna fight Wilder.
You don't think so? How about Fury?
Nah, he'll duck him. Fury's not as much of a threat, but I mean Wilder's gonna knock out Fury next time they fight, and Fury's not gonna be a factor anymore anyway. But no, I mean it's boxing. I've seen this shit play out so many times, and
listen, you're Mr. Narrative right now. When it comes to MMA, there's no narrative.
It's not even narrative. I've been behind the scenes in boxing and MMA, and I know how it could be. That it's business. It's not a sport.
Now, are you covering the card in Sacramento?
No. So actually, I planned a vacation with the kids down to Vegas for International Fight Week and to go see my parents and stuff. I don't know if I'm going to be back in time for the Sacramento card.
Are you covering it? Are you getting credentials for International Fight Week?
No. I want to. So my parents live down there, and so I'm just kind of just taking it in as a fan. I want to spend time with the family and kind of watch fights with my dad and stuff. So I didn't want to really have to have the burden of actually working during a vacation.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, I'm working the one in Anaheim though.
Okay,
the Nate Diaz fight.
Yeah, I'll be working over at as I said, the Triple G Rolls fight on Saturday, and then I'll be at the Bellator fight June 14th over at the Garden also. I'm waiting for the UFC to come back over here.
And then I don't know if I told you I'm actually moving to Vegas in August.
Yeah, you told me. I don't know if you told CG.
Wow.
Yeah. So that way I'll be doing a lot more fights. So
yeah, there's plenty of fights in Vegas, right?
Yeah, and I'll do some of your boxing matches too.
Yeah, I mean, so talking about narrative there, all the big boxing matches are right now at this point are really in Vegas or New York at this point, right? Now that back at Madison Square Garden.
Well, after Triple G wins this fight, he'll probably call out Canelo, and they'll have it in Vegas.
Yeah, I'm hoping it's going to be in New York. I know. I watched talking about narrative. I watched Triple G, and I know he does like New York.
Yeah, but I don't think De La Hoya will let it be in New York. He's a Vegas guy.
Yeah, he is. All right, so we'll call it quits right there, guys. Good luck this week on your bets. And again, Ty will have his prize pick projections up quick, and then we'll also have some Quad Edge stuff out later on tonight and tomorrow. Talk to you later.